Welcome. Well, you're at home with Jim and Joy, and you are an important part of our EWTN family. And we're delighted that you have welcomed us into your home. We certainly would love to hear from you with a question or a comment. Please just send us an email to jimandjoy@ewtn.com. And today, our guest again is Christine Wohar. She is the founder and the executive director of Frassati USA. She's the author of a great book, Finding Frassati and Following His Path to Holiness. And this great book is available at ewtnrc.com. So if you have grandchildren, grandsons, and maybe you're in college and you're looking for a saint that you can relate to, a saint that's, you say, well, that's kind of like my age, where I am. How did he do what he did? Ways for you to become holier. We're all on a journey to holiness. And so I think this would be a great book for you. And if you have grandsons out there, I certainly think it would be a great spiritual connection for your grandson.
Yeah. Well, I love the book itself. I love the title of the book, Finding Frassati. And I certainly feel like, we're finding him. We didn't know all that much about Blessed Frassati, but we're certainly learning now. And I like the subtitle, and Following His Path to Holiness. Following his path to holiness. He was a member of St. Vincent de Paul. We interviewed the leaders of St. Vincent de Paul. And it was really interesting as I studied them. It was different because they were saying, yes, we serve the poor, we serve the needy, but they really emphasized this is our path to holiness.
Right.
That's really so prominent there. It's kind of a way, these are my words, of God saving us.
Yes.
We want to bring Christ to others. We want to love Christ in others. But, we're finding holiness. We're finding salvation as we give our lives away. This is what we're finding. And it's not like we're doing everybody a favor. God's doing us a favor by loving him in the least. So plenty more to come. Christine Wohar will continue her conversation with us regarding Finding Frassati. We'll be right back. There's plenty more to come. Please don't go away.
Welcome back. We're at home with Jim and Joy, and today our guest again is Christine Wohar. She is the founder and executive director of Frassati USA. She's the author of a great book. EWTN is publishing this. It's called Finding Frassati and Following in His Path to Holiness. And you can get this great book at ewtnrc.com, and you can visit her website, frassatiusa.org. Well, Christine, we certainly enjoyed having a beautiful conversation with you yesterday, and you were a great guest. Today, again, we expect you to be ever so great, telling our family and promoting that we all too would find Frassati. Tell our family, what is the mission of Frassati USA?
Frassati USA began really to just spread the spirituality of Pier Giorgio. So we're not the team that does the canonization cause. That happens in Rome. But it's really to transform the culture. We want to give a model of holiness. Who, when he was beatified in 1990, Pope John Paul II said he testifies that holiness is possible for everyone, and we need these kind of models. I know he's considered the patron for the youth, but I consider him, he crosses all demographics. Women love him because he was so good looking, and men love him, he was so manly. So many vocations are attributed to him. Priests and nuns who have the name of Frassati. So he inspires everybody, and I think that we just really need to have good, strong models of courageous Catholics to transform the culture and making him better known and giving us lay witnesses. Even, you've talked a lot about Father Coyle, but so many of the examples that we have are priests and nuns, which, wonderful priest and nun examples. But as a layperson, sometimes it would help you to just know somebody who, really walked and suffered in your way. And Pier Giorgio did all of that, and Frassati USA just is wanting to make him known, to spread that spirituality, to really ultimately to help people be holy and make it to the top, to heaven.
And, like you say frequently, he's relatable, and we need a model for all people. And maybe sometimes we hear, the way of holiness and be holy, and just our own misunderstanding of that. It's kind of like, well, you're just totally out of this world. Well, you're totally out of worldliness, but you're not out of the world. And this guy was like really in the world, not worldliness, but in the world. So people are saying, if that's what holiness looks like, he's all over the place and he's having fun and he's, always going up higher and yet he's doing things in this world that people can't see for the poor. Is that holiness? Because that's a different idea of holiness. How can you be so involved in the world and so far from worldliness? That's inviting.
Right. It's funny you say that, because when I would give talks to little children and I would say, where do saints live? And they raise their hand and say, in church, in heaven. Then I would show them a picture of one of the houses that Pier Giorgio lived in, and there would be all these oohs and ahs, like, whoa, you can live in a house like that and still be holy, and still be a saint. And so I think it's important for us to transform our notion of holiness. Because I think we make excuses and basically assign that job to the priests and the nuns and the bishops and the cardinals, right? That's their job to be holy. My job is to complain about they're not going to do doing a good enough job doing their job. And I think in the case of Pier Giorgio, he shows us that there's an obligation on the laity, and holiness should be attractive and it should be fun. One of the things, I put this quote at the very beginning before the book even begins, because when Pier Giorgio died, there was an article in a newspaper. It's a big Italian name, Baldovino di Rovesenda, but he wrote, it would be an outrage to the memory of Pier Giorgio to be enthusiastic about him without attempting to model ourselves on his example. So the mission of Frassati USA is not just to tell his story, it's we have to start trying to be holy, live our Catholic faith. And if you need a helper in how to do it, this is somebody that can really help.
Well, that's your subtitle, and following in his path to holiness. And that's the poke, because we can fall into kind of Christian Catholic entertainment.
Exactly.
It could be entertaining to a point, but this isn't about entertainment. This is about your soul. It's about salvation. It's about your life. And you just can't look at people and say, well, that was really good. What's the next story we can put on and eat popcorn and watch it? You're saying you got to walk. You got to walk in the way of holiness. You need to learn what that means, because it's very attractive. It's beautiful. But you just can't be entertained. You got to enter in. I think somehow, some way, he would tell us that message.
Pier Giorgio was dubbed the man of the 8 Beatitudes by Pope John Paul II. It's a long story. It happened when he was still the Cardinal Wojtyła in Krakow. And then he reaffirmed that title at the beatification, or the man of the 8 Beatitudes. And I think he shows just the first beatitude, blessed are the poor in spirit. As you said before, he lived in the world. He had a gardener, chauffeur, maids, cooks, the family had wealth. Famous people came to the house. Important politicians. His father became the ambassador to Germany for Italy. They lived in the embassy in Berlin. He had all of the world. They had a nice, beautiful car in those days. These are things uncommon. But he was detached. And like in the story of the rich young man, he went away sad because he wasn't willing to give away what he had. He couldn't be detached from it. Maybe the Lord wouldn't have made him give everything away in the physical sense. And so I think in the case of Pier Giorgio, he shows us that we need to just be willing to give it all up for Christ. And so we can be in the world and not of the world, and find a path to holiness.
And case in point, when he was traveling on a train and he had a first class ticket and he would go to the third class, and somebody said, well, why are you sitting here in the third class? He said, because there's not a fourth class, right? I mean, isn't that true? He was just like, I want to be humble. Like, I'm not looking, and we as humans, we're looking for power, we're looking for prestige, we're looking for wealth, and we're chasing it all, and it's like, hey, I'm backing out of all of it. And I think the great word for him is he really was detached.
He was.
And he was living large as he could live. And, you know, as Father shared on yesterday's show, you know, he went out and told somebody. You know, he was just like, are you hungry? Can I feed you? Do you need, I got a coat. You need a coat, right? What happened to your coat? Well, somebody needed a coat. I gave him my coat.
Right.
Isn't that what we should be doing? It's not complicated.
I guess I'm thinking, is she saying that and knowing a little bit about his life, he knows so much, that his parents weren't, you know, that strong in the faith. I'm saying, like, where did this guy get this from? Like, because we all have models, we have influences. Did he have a special model and influence, or did he just read his way in, or was it the encounter? God just graced him, you know, and he met him more deeply in the Holy Eucharist as a young boy. Like, where did he get this from? Everybody has somebody they're looking at or looking towards, it seems, but, like, where did he get that from?
Yeah, I
How did
think
that happen
in the
to him?
case of Pier Giorgio, we say it was a crescendo in his life. Like, he just transformed his life into a wonderful adventure. And I think when he received his first Holy Communion and then began receiving communion daily, that I think was that was his model, was Christ. And then he saw in every person Christ. And so he didn't see a race or a class status or anything like that. He lived at a time when the workers were greatly mistreated. And he studied engineering, mining engineering, because he wanted to work where the poorest of the poor were. And he would go to those meetings to help the workers, and they considered him a brother. And he was like that to them. And so, he didn't have any kind of, there were no filters for him. Every person was Christ. And I think he loved St. Paul. I mean, I can't think of a family member who would have been an example, but I know that he loved St. Paul, and St. Paul said the charity of Christ urges us, impels us. And he would see that expression walking around the streets of Turin that in Latin is there in a particular place where he went. And I think, and he would write that, that without charity we were nothing. We had to have that fire of charity burn out our own personalities, he said. When I tell these stories and even hear myself saying them, I have to stop and say, this was a 24-year-old, right? He was a 24-year-old college student that we're talking about, and the things that he said and did. And that, to me, is what makes it even more of a powerful story and message, and a challenge to me personally as a Catholic to see this is an example that he did at that age. Because at 24, I wasn't Frassati-like. Let's just say that.
Well, and I think the world today needs a witness like that, right? And so tell us about the three popes that encouraged us to know Blessed Frassati.
Well, since his beatification in 1990, Pope Francis, Pope Benedict, Pope John Paul II have all spoken about him and encouraged him. Pope John Paul II, one of the things he said was, at a superficial glance, there's nothing, he just seems like an ordinary guy. There's nothing extraordinary. But it's his ordinariness that calls us to virtue and compels us to imitate him. Pope Benedict said, you know, he shows us that it really is worth it to give up everything and to commit our daily decisions, our fundamental our decisions and our daily decisions at all costs to live for Christ. And it's fun and attractive.
That's right.
And one of the things I like that Pope Francis said, not about Pier Giorgio, but about saints in general, he said, saints are not supermen who were born perfect, but ordinary people who followed the Lord with all their heart. And I think that's where we make the mistake, is we expect a saint is a superhuman, super religious, super Catholic, super holy person. No, you're a saint, you're a saint, and we're all future saints, and we're called to that now. And so I think Pier Giorgio reminds us of our personal call to holiness, that it's supposed to be each one of us responding to that call, not leaving it for the next guy.
And it's hard, but I think people like Blessed Frassati and other blesseds and saints would say, but I'm happy. I'm really happy. The happiness that comes from the Lord through walking in his way. My life is a byproduct of what the Lord's doing in my life. So we would say, you know, you're giving your shoes away, this, that, you're in the elements or whatever's going on, you're with these people, you got sick and had disease. But he didn't look for that. But he's just saying, the way of the Lord, taste and see. It's good. And that comes across. Radical way of holiness and serving people, but joy as a byproduct.
Pier Giorgio gave a speech to young people, and he said, true happiness, the short version of it is that true happiness comes only when we have peace of heart and mind, when we're pure of heart and mind. So not in earthly pleasures, but when we're pure in heart and mind. And He was called an explosion of joy.
Yeah.
As a French priest that I interviewed once in Rome said, he was not a sad saint. He had sorrow. He had every reason to be
Right.
sad.
Yeah.
He
lived
saw
in
misery, right?
He did. His parents were had a terrible marriage on the
Right.
verge of separation. You know, he had a lot of heartache and things that he went through. He lived in difficult, challenging times in the world, but he was a joyful, happy person.
And you spent time, obviously, with Luciana, the sister, who's the younger sister, but she lived to be 105 and so on, and relatives. What did they say? If you ask my sisters about me, they could tell you about me. Like, what did they really say about his heart? Was he tender? Was he, what was he really around the house like? And what did they see in him? Because sisters can see that, or grandparents, they see, he's this kind of boy. You're like, what did you get?
Well, his sister wrote the books about Pier Giorgio that really, I think, are the most
Okay.
authentic and
Yeah.
really reveal that. All of her children were born long after he died, because he died in 1925 when she first started having her children. They didn't know him. When Pier Giorgio's coffin was opened in the canonization process, he was found to be perfectly incorrupt, and some of the nieces and nephews were there. And for them, at that moment, it was like meeting their uncle for the first time. And so they learned about him. It's an interesting thing because he was in the family, but he was more of a historical, he was the uncle, but he was long gone. And I think through Luciana, his sister, his life has really come to life. And so now that they have a deeper sense of him now.
What makes your book unique? You speak about the writings of the sister and others and so on. What is unique about your work?
Yeah, the best books, in my opinion, are the books of Luciana, and then there's a book that I co-edited that is the Letters of Pier Giorgio. But these are all like long biographies and sometimes involve a lot of Italian understanding and so on. So this book just tries to be really, as you've said many times, and I appreciate it, the subtitle, Following His Path to Holiness, that we would have a deeper relationship with Pier Giorgio. We find him and get to know him. But that then we would have a deeper sense of that personal call to holiness. And so this book includes short reflections and a prayer at the end. And some of these are traditional Catholic prayers that maybe we've forgotten how to pray. And then lastly, that we would do those things and then have a deeper commitment to living our faith. And so there's action steps in there to encourage you to do that.
And you do that really well. I mean, we want to read, but we have to read books for shows, right? And so I get yours, and I'm looking at this. It's like 50 chapters in here, but it's like 2 pages,
right?
And it's sweet.
40, don't
Is it 40 chapters?
One for every year of EWTN. One for every year.
How many pages are in this book when I had to read a book? But they were beautiful. They were there. You felt like you knew him, and you did always do the little jab. Like he went to mass every day, and so why don't you go one more time to mass? Like. That's a challenge, really, because I can't say, well, I can't make it every. Can you go one more time? Or we serve the poor in the set. Well, can you do something nice? Or can you reconcile with somebody? And so you make it very practical. Are you finding the way of holiness? You got to move. You got to act, and you do it in a beautiful way. So I think this is something that's really readable and relatable as well for couples, because we were doing that together, or even for families. I mean, it's that you could read it. Young people can read it, and you got an application to it, and you're trying to find the way of holiness with Rosati. So it's beautifully done.
It is. It would be a good Lenten journey too, right? For 40 days, right?
Yeah.
You're doing your Lenten journey and say, and Jim said, we watch movies and, watching movies on saints and everything, and even watching the stuff on Frassati, and it's just like, okay, what does that mean for me? It's not just, that was a great movie, click. No, what does that mean to me? What is the challenge? And when our priests send us out, and our priest, even this Sunday, on Saturday, we went to Saturday night mass, and he was saying, we're going to start up, what are we starting up? Wait a minute. I just had it went out my head. RCIA, right? And so we're going to start up RCIA. Have you invited anybody to come?
Right. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Isn't that real? Like I can't be a saint. Well, can you be the most loving wife? Can you be the most loving husband? Can you be the best mom on the planet? Can you be the best worker? That's our offering.
What are you hoping people take away?
I hope that they decide that they want to be serious about the call to holiness. With the example of Pier Giorgio, that they would recognize that it's attractive and fun, it's doable, and it's something that you're going to be a happier person when you start to really immerse and live your faith. St. Catherine of Siena, who was somebody that Pier Giorgio loved,
Yes.
said, it's heaven all the way to heaven.
That's right.
And we shouldn't have a miserable life. Pier Giorgio said we should live and not exist. And to live without the faith, he said, is not living, but existing. And so I hope through reading this book, people will learn those little tricks that Pier Giorgio
Well, I
had to
think
be
they
a
are.
happy, holy
We certainly
person.
are. We're going to hold you over for the final segment.
All right,
so
terrific.
More to come. And so we'll be right back. It's Finding Frassati and following his path to holiness. It's not simply entertainment. It's not simply learning about someone, seeing a good movie. But that was really something. It's like Frassati would say, walk with me. Come along this way and find true happiness. We'll be right back. Plenty more to come. Don't go away.
Welcome back. Well, we're wrapping up our conversation with Christine, and we just want to know more about him. We encourage our family to go to FrassatiUSA.org, and there's a great movie on there, a clip about getting to know him. You think, I want to know, I want to learn, you want to become holy as he.
You know, Christine, I've learned so much about, I'm finding Frassati.
Good.
But the particular aspect for me that was just so encouraging, I didn't know about his kind of activism, not only with the poor, but standing for the social teaching of the church in the midst of the conclusion of World War I, Mussolini's rising up, radical socialist, fascist attacks upon Frassati and others that would just be, you know, walking, lifting up Mary or the Eucharist,
Right.
and so on, all that. And that helps me because I've been placed in some of those situations regarding my pro-life work. And it works as a leaven, right, in me and in our culture, religious liberty, and that we're going to stand up even unto death. So how does Frassati leaven the church? How does he leaven our culture and society at this time, possibly?
I think it's come up in our conversation. Why did thousands of people come to his funeral? There was no Facebook or Instagram or any social media. He didn't have a phone to text or anything like that. He was doing this in a personal encounter, each one. And he also did that, he had a group of friends. A funny component of Pier Giorgio's life is he founded a group of his friends. He called them the Tipiloski, which kind of means like the sinister ones or the shady characters. It was a joke. But the reason for that group was he wanted his friends to stay together, united in a bond of holiness, a bond that knew no temporal limits, he said. He wanted them to have a way to stay connected. And we live in a time right now where people have thousands of social media friends and no real good friends. And I like to think of Pier Giorgio as a patron for friendship. I included the litany in honor of Pier Giorgio in the book. And I think we transform the culture one person at a time, including starting with ourselves.
Yeah.
And so I think having a model like Pier Giorgio, becoming a better person, a better friend, and then inspiring, planting those Frassati seeds. That's really all I've done for 15 years, is plant Frassati seeds. And as we find Frassati, maybe we find the courage to do better things. Make a sign of the cross in public. That alone can transform the restaurant. And they see somebody, hey, that person was not afraid to pray. So I think that ultimately that leaven is something that it's a contagious thing. You know, that's what yeast does, right? It rises to a greater capacity than it ever was. And I think in practicing the fundamentals, which I always like to say, we do the fundamentals of the faith, and you will see things, you will see the church change and the culture change. If we were all really good at being Catholics, as we are at everything else that we do.
The world would be a different
If we were
place,
good as
wouldn't
we
it?
are at Catholics, as we are with online things that we do, you know, we would transform the culture. We would have a different world in no time.
I believe that. Tell us his favorite slogan in English and in Spanish.
Well, it really wasn't his
In
slogan.
Italian.
This gets said that he was walking around all the time saying verso l'alto, but Pier Giorgio wrote on the back of a picture of his last climb, verso l'alto, And so we make that our motto, to the top, toward the heights. He wasn't really saying that all of the time,
Right.
but it's so well associated with him now. And that's my license plate. I can't get away from anybody in town because they see my plate,
That's
to the top.
awesome, yes.
Some people spot me, and I wish they hadn't. And so we're going, and it's a perfect motto for anybody that's knowing Pier Giorgio, because that's our goal, is to Christ. To
Thank you for the
heaven, to
gift,
top.
Christine, of helping us define Frassati. You really do that through your writing and through your just promotion, your advocacy, your love for him, which you've really inherited by God's grace and through the family. It's very unique, a great blessing, and I did sense his presence with us through you. Finding Frassati and following his path to holiness, EWTNRC.com, and it's EWTN Publishing. So God bless you. God bless all of your loved ones. You're an important part of this EWTN family. You're never alone. You're always at home with Jim and with Joy. Keep it on EWTN. Bye now.